She sat in a bustling downtown corner where the brilliant neon lights never fade all night, gazing absently at the passing people. Flashy makeup, Alyssa, 15 years old. She doesn't look like she's a middle schooler, the only daughter of my boss. It happened a few days ago. I was invited to a bar after work by my direct supervisor, John. John and I attended the same university, and he was exactly a generation older than me, 38. Leo, I feel bad bringing this up for personal reasons, but actually, I have a favor to ask you. Oh really? What do you need? As I leaned in, John said, I'm getting a divorce. John married his age mate when he was 23. It was a shotgun wedding. They were happily married in their 20s. However, entering their 30s, disputes between the couple, mainly revolving around their only daughter Alyssa, increased. John is rather permissive. On the other hand, his wife tended to micromanage even the small stuff. For example, John said, Alyssa was in 3rd or 4th grade. His wife realized they were running out of mayonnaise while making potato salad. So, she sent Alyssa to the local supermarket. She explained in detail to Alyssa about the brand, product name, weight, and where it was located on the shelves. However, what Alyssa brought back was different from what her mother had specified. Even if they wanted to exchange it, Alyssa had lost the receipt somewhere. His wife scolded her harshly, and Alyssa began to sob. When John heard about this, he said, It's just mayonnaise. Any brand will do. There's not much difference. Then, his wife snapped at John. What are you talking about? This one uses only egg yolk, and this one uses whole eggs. They are completely different. Before John could argue, his wife's anger was again directed at Alyssa. I explained so much. Firstly, she generally doesn't listen to people properly. Her attention is scattered, and she lacks focus. It's not just about our daughter. Everything is like this. Being with her feels suffocating, so to speak. John said with a sigh. Gradually, conversations between John and his wife decreased, leading to them meeting and sleeping separately. And about 6 months ago, talk of divorce came up. Neither had any objections to the divorce. My wife has already left the house and started a new life with her parents. So, the problem is, it was about Alyssa's custody. They were arguing over who would have custody during the divorce negotiations. Under the law in America, when divorcing, it's necessary to decide the custodian, either the father or the mother. She is clinging to Alyssa's custody as if it were a lifeline. According to John, his wife is declaring that she wouldn't hesitate to bring it to court mediation instead of a settlement. So, what do you need me to do? I asked. I need your help with my daughter, Alyssa. John, with his eyes reddening as if he was about to cry, said to me. So, here I am, in the sparkling neon night of downtown, with a photo of Alyssa given to me by John. The photo was taken secretly by John, who was worried about Alyssa going out late every night recently. Flashy makeup, clothes that boldly revealed her skin. She looked mature in the photo, but seeing Alyssa in person was strikingly more alluring. I approached her as she was sitting in a corner of the downtown area. Hey, you, could you, She raised her head to look at me. Her eyes were filled with distaste. I'm not into that sort of thing. She spat out the words and walked away from me. John's request to me was to stop Alyssa from, well, roaming around or hanging out every night. Alyssa's behavior started to change after John's wife left home. She continued going to middle school but quit her tutoring classes on her own. She would lock herself in her room at home and didn't talk to John. They hardly saw each other. And she would go to the downtown area night after night, not coming home until 11 or 12. John was genuinely worried about his daughter, Alyssa. And another concern was the impact of Alyssa's misconduct, if it continues, on the custody battle during the divorce. In divorce mediation, decisions about custody are made by evaluating which parent has more love, financial stability, and caregiving ability. Currently, his wife lives in her parents' house and has a full-time job. There is no financial issue, and her parents are there to look after Alyssa when her mother is at work. On the other hand, John has no financial problem, but if Alyssa continues to reject him and stays out late, his caregiving ability will be questioned, putting him at a considerable disadvantage. John was also losing his confidence as a father. I think it's futile for me to talk to her directly. I think she won't listen, but I also can't force her. Thus, he asked me, who has a middle school teaching certificate and tutored students during college, to persuade Alyssa. The time limit was 1 month until the next divorce consultation. Since then, I've been visiting the downtown area every night after work, trying to make contact with Alyssa. Thinking that revealing I was asked by her father would be counterproductive, I hid my real identity from Alyssa. She was often with girls her age, so it was hard to find the right timing to approach her. So, I started by letting her recognize my face, pretending to be hanging around a little far from where she could see and occasionally glancing at her. Even so, this is risky. She doesn't look like a middle schooler at all. If I had met her in this town by accident without knowing she was Alyssa, I accidentally swallowed my saliva and shook my head to dispel the improper thoughts. In hindsight, I seemed suspicious to Alyssa and the other girls. That night, too, as I was loitering across the street, a girl with high-tone colored, medium-cut hair blocked my way. She looked about 18 or 19. "What's your business with that girl?" Her voice was unexpectedly intimidating. Seeing me flustered, she said, "You don't look like a patrol officer, so, do you have any business with her?" I said no and ran away. I decided to withdraw that night and reported to John. John, sounding downhearted, said, "I see, I'm sorry." Then, as if he thought of something, "Alyssa loves strawberry-flavored things, whether it's chocolate, ice cream, or cake." He suggested using strawberry sweets to start the conversation. It was the 14th day since I started visiting the downtown area where Alyssa hangs out. Finally, the chance came. That night, I went straight there from my office. Alyssa was alone. The girl with the high-tone medium cut wasn't there either. I hastily bought 2 strawberry-flavored cream puffs at a nearby convenience store and ran to where she was. "Do you want this?" Alyssa glared at me. I held out the cream puff to her. Alyssa's eyes brightened for a moment. Then, turning her face half away, she snatched the cream puff from my hand and took a silent bite. I sat down next to her. "Why do you come here every evening?" I asked, and took a bite of my cream puff, too. "What about you?" "Me, I'm just killing time." Alyssa glanced at me sideways and continued to eat her cream puff. "I don't think it's good." As I started to say that, she swiftly stood up. "Thanks for the treat," she said, about to turn her back to me. "Aren't your father worried about you?" Alyssa turned around and looked straight at me. "That's what this is about." "What do you mean?" Alyssa pointed near the left side of my chest. I came straight from work, so I was still in my suit. On the left collar of that suit, where she pointed, a company badge was shining. "You work at the same company. My parents sent you to watch over me." I quickly grabbed her arm. Then, I told her about how John, as her father, was worried about her, and how if things continued this way, there might be a chance they can't live together. "Your father believes you won't listen to him. That's why he sought my help," with tears in his eyes. She shook off my hand and disappeared into the city crowd. I trailed her and searched around for a while. When I returned to the original spot, she was nowhere to be found. So, it was you. I turned around to that voice. It was the high-toned woman I mentioned earlier. You seem persistent, but whatever. If you are looking for Ailey, she is with me. What is Alyssa saying? When I asked, clinging on, the high-toned Rachel replied with an exasperated face. Everyone has their own issues. That's all there is to it. I don't know anything else. That's irresponsible. When I said that, she snorted. But I have promised to send Ailey home before the last train, so I will ensure she gets home by then. Rachel said that and jerked her chin, urging me to leave. I called John. I reported that my true identity had been revealed, leaving John disappointed. The next day, I had lunch with John and talked in detail about what happened the previous night. Alyssa had returned home, right? John nodded weakly. Then he said, I guess I have no choice but to give up. Still, half a month. We have half a month left. Then, more than 10 days passed. Alyssa spent her time on the streets of the downtown area until the last train, and all I could do was watch her from across the street, day after day. And then, we had only 2 days left until the deadline. When I visited our usual place, other girls were there, but only Alyssa was missing. Even after waiting for a while, she didn't show up. I approached the girls, whose faces had become familiar, to ask about Alyssa's whereabouts. Excuse me, where is Alyssa tonight? When I asked, the girls looked at each other and laughed mockingly at me. Eventually, one of the girls said to me, if you're looking for Ailey, she headed to the park just before Tom arrived. I thanked them and took a step towards the park but then stopped. Is Tom referring to me? Yeah, you see, we used to have a fat cat next door who would always watch our house from the top of the fence just like you. That fat cat's name was Tom. Sent off by the girls' laughter, I went to the nearby park as told. There, a clearly ill-intentioned man in his 20s was hassling Alyssa. Hey, what are you doing? I rushed over, and Alyssa clung to me from behind. I pushed Alyssa behind me and got us out of there. What's your problem? The guy approached me, his eyes blazing with anger. Then, he grabbed my collar as I backed away. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not confident in my strength. The man raised his fist. I pushed the man with all my might and turned to escape. But I twisted my ankle and fell on my butt. What's the matter? You were acting all cool just now. The man grabbed my collar again. At that moment I thought I was going to get hit. He let go of me. And then, he ran off as fast as he could. I turned my head to the opposite direction from where the man ran. Then, led by Rachel, the girls who call me Tom and some shady-looking guys I've seen in the downtown area were running towards me. What happened to you? Alyssa had gone to call for help, and in no time, Rachel had gathered acquaintances from downtown to come to our aid. Hey, Ailey, Rachel called Alyssa and ordered a cab to take us home together. I suggested going to John's house, but she wouldn't hear of it. Eventually, Alyssa came to my room. Do you have any band-aids or something? When we got to my room, Alyssa asked. When I said no, she dashed out to a convenience store. While Alyssa was out, I called John. At your place, tonight. Yes. The last train's already left. If she stays over, we can talk about various things. John seemed a bit bewildered. By the way, she hasn't gotten into stuff like that, has she? I, feeling agitated, asked what he was referring to. I mean, booze and cigarettes. If my daughter has dabbled. Oh, that doesn't seem like it. I wondered why I was flustered. What did he mean by that? I was confused myself. Soon after ending the call with John, Alyssa came back home. Excitedly, she had a convenience store bag in one hand. "Here, I bought them. First off, I'm a bit hungry, so this. A strawberry-flavored cream puff. The same one I bought her before. Plus, potato chips. Some chicken. For drinks, strawberry milk for her and canned coffee for me." Finally, she took out the poultice. I almost forgot to buy the poultice. I couldn't help but chuckle, remembering the mayo buying mistake John mentioned. Eventually, without my asking, Alyssa shared her thoughts and feelings. She was shocked to find out her parents were getting a divorce. But there was nothing she could do about it. She just wanted to escape from that reality. So, to distract herself, she went out to that bustling town, almost like she was cosplaying. She researched divorce on her own, too. After all, Dad and Mom just want custody, don't they? Those were heavy words. Indeed, I thought it might be the parent's ego, wanting to become the custodial parent. And again, when brought to divorce mediation, if there's a minor over 15 between the spouses, a confirmation of the child's wishes, directly, as to which parent they prefer, is always conducted. It was terrible. Both Dad and Mom had their flaws, but the things I loved about them were much more, for both. And then to be told, choose because we are getting divorced. It's impossible. Alyssa screamed her pent-up feelings and jumped into my arms crying. The next morning, John came to pick her up in his car. After putting Alyssa in the car, John asked me secretly if we had talked. I nodded. And I asserted, "But whether it's to you, or your wife, or the court, or anyone else, it's secret, what I heard from Alyssa. At the very least, I thought I should not disclose which parent she would choose until she decides herself. If I don't do so, I feel like I would be betraying her, who had confided in me things she had been bottling up inside." Alyssa stopped going to the bustling town from that day. John and his wife's divorce discussions broke down, and mediation was indeed initiated. When the court investigator asked Alyssa about her preference, she chose her father, John. The mediator respected her wish and awarded custody to John. His wife reluctantly accepted this, and the divorce was finalized. Later, she contacted me and told me why she chose John. "Because Mom has both grandparents, and first and foremost, she's reliable. In contrast, Dad is hopeless when he's alone." Alyssa and I kept in touch for a long time. We met in person a few times a year. Close, but not too close. That's how our relationship was for about 7 years. I was 33, and Alyssa was 22. "What's this serious talk about?" As soon as we sat down at the pub, John said. "It's been a while since I drank with John since I moved apartments. I was the one who invited him. It had been a long time since I came to this city at night. The busy district that 15-year-old Alyssa used to visit night after night. Alyssa chose and booked this place. Actually, Alyssa will be here soon." John, looking surprised, opened his eyes wide. Suddenly, a large mug of beer was rudely placed on the table. "Hey, we haven't ordered yet," I told the young waitress who brought the beer. Then, that waitress acted as if it was just a courtesy and paid no attention. "Actually, I have been dating Alyssa." I only said it bluntly and gulped down the courtesy beer. John also sipped his beer, still in shock. "Judging from Dad's reaction, you've already told him," Alyssa arrived and said as she sat next to me. Then, the same waitress came and placed a strawberry cooler in front of Alyssa as a courtesy. She just stood there without moving. "Hey, Ailey, shouldn't we have ordered before discussing?" I looked closely at the face of the waitress who said that. "This is that Rachel." While I was surprised, Rachel winked at me. I nodded and beckoned and whispered a few words to Rachel. who came closer. "Since when, you guys?" I explained to John how even after it was decided that he would be the guardian of 15-year-old Alyssa, we kept in touch. And I confessed my feelings to Alyssa recently, and she accepted. Because he was always there for me when I was in pain, struggling, sad, and also when I was happy. John said he understands, with tears in his eyes. "Have you already told your mom?" Alyssa replied, "Not yet." Even after John officially divorced, Alyssa and her mother met whenever they wanted to. Of course, even after she became an adult. John strongly grasped my hand, placed on the table, with both his hands. "Will I be called Dad by Leo, who's only a generation younger? Shall we try, maybe now?" As John and I smiled at each other, not Dad, but suddenly, a granddad. John and I were stunned by Alyssa's words. "Hey, come on, both of you. I'm just kidding. It's obviously a joke." The three of us burst into laughter. "Can we serve the food now?" I had them wait as requested. John said, "All right, let's eat, let's drink," and patted my shoulder several times. I exchanged a relieved glance with Alyssa beside me.